Is Clemson vulnerable? Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, following the Tigers' narrow escape in Chapel Hill 21-20. Who saw this coming? Clemson 28-point favorite. I did not. The Heels had come out of the gate, played well against South Carolina and Miami. Had this game been played a few weeks ago, maybe I could have foreseen something like this happening, but North Carolina has not played well in recent weeks, including a loss to App State. A good team, but a Sun Belt team nonetheless. But North Carolina came out with a defensive game plan, and they hit for big plays, not consistently moving the ball on offense, but big plays in the passing game and the run game against the Clemson defense. Now, during the Tigers' run, which we basically tracked to 2015 when they first appeared in the national championship game as an undefeated team, Deshaun Watson at quarterback lost to Alabama 45-40. They have had their narrow misses. Unlike Alabama, who has been dominant throughout the regular season during this stretch drive under Nick Saban going back to 2015, or we could obviously trace it before that Alabama has just generally been dominant against the SEC, the best league in America. And Clemson, though, has had narrow misses. Now, to their credit, they have not had the big letdown, i.e. Ohio State. So look at those. If we go back to 2015, they had the final game near miss against South Carolina. They won that one 37-32. I don't know that the game came actually down to the last drive, as I remember. I think that was a late South Carolina score, but it was a contested game and a close one against the Gamecocks, who had dominated that series the previous 5 years. In 2016, of course, that led to a national championship. In Game 2, Troy took them to the wire. Legitimately, Troy took them to the wire 30-24. And, of course, the game that saved the season and maybe the dynasty was the game against NC State, in which NC State missed a field goal that would have won the game. Flat out, game over, NC State wins, and Clemson already had the loss to Pitt. So consider that would have knocked them out of the college football playoff, and there would have been no national championship. Clemson beat NC State in overtime 24-17. 2016, I mentioned the Pitt game. Was Pitt better than Clemson? Of course not. They were a 5-game loser that year, but they were good enough on that day with James Conner at running back 43-42. The Syracuse loss in 2017, of course, when Kelly Bryant went down. 2018, the 2-point conversion missed by Texas A&M, and Clemson escapes at Kyle Field 28-26. And here we have, against what is now a 2-3 North Carolina team, Clemson pulls it out 21-20 on the failed 2-point conversion. So what would be the concerns for Clemson? Trevor Lawrence is not playing like the Trevor Lawrence of 2018. He is still, though, making great throws. I just checked out the condensed version of the game again, went through the throws that Lawrence made that were important to the game, and going 18 for 30, he still made amazing NFL-type throws, off-platform kind of throws, laser shots in tight coverage, because that's what basically North Carolina did in this game, is they said, let's let Clemson beat us on the ground. We need to lock down these receivers and eliminate the big play, and they generally did. Lawrence at 60% on the season. That's below his standard 7 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. That ratio not nearly as good as it was last year at 30-4, or what we would expect it to be. The protection along the offensive line, to me, would be the biggest concern. They missed assignments. They were confused by the North Carolina front. They couldn't run the ball consistently. Travis Etienne, 14 carries, 67 yards in this game. Go back to the Texas A&M game, and even though Clemson dominated generally in that game, the Aggies held Etienne to 16 carries for 53 yards. Since Travis Etienne, coming off that monster 2018 season, ran for 205 in the opener against Georgia Tech, and we know how good Georgia Tech is, he has ripped off 53, 76, 61, and 67 yards. Subpar performances from Travis Etienne, still averaging 6.9 yards per carry. Defensively, Clemson's still extremely solid, but they did give up gash plays. Also could not protect a touchdown lead on the final drive of the game, so that's got to be concerning in regards to your defense with the game on the line, trying to protect a 7-point lead, not a field goal lead, but had to score the touchdown, know exactly what needs to have happen, that they give up a 16-play drive with the game on the line, 2 third down conversions, 2 fourth down conversions, Although the overall performance, again, especially in the second half, going back to North Carolina's second touchdown that they scored in the second quarter, Clemson only gave up 14 first downs and 290 yards, so the defensive performance against the two best opponents on the schedule thus far, North Carolina and Texas A&M, has been generally stellar. I think they kind of lucked into a bad play call on the two-point conversion. I didn't like it. It's easy to say after it didn't work that I didn't like it. North Carolina certainly saw and Phil Longo believed that he had the best play call to beat the #1 team in the country, and that's what Mack Brown asked him before the decision. They thought they had the play. The Clemson linebacking core, I know Skalski in particular mentioned after the game that they saw it on film because that exact play worked for North Carolina in a two-point conversion situation earlier in the season, so it's already on tape. They had already seen it and thought that they might run that. So that's not good game planning on North Carolina's part to run a play that was already on tape against the #1 team in the country. They would have to assume that that play would have been scouted. Credit Clemson's defense. They were prepared for the option of throw, quarterback run, or pitch to the back. Dabo said they got outplayed and outcoached. That is certainly a gracious comment from him. I would generally say from a coaching standpoint that they did get outcoached by Mack Brown's staff. And Mack Brown, again, doing a nice job at North Carolina in his first season. There were some mistakes. We have another missed field goal. That has certainly not been uncommon during this dynasty run of Clemson, that they have not been rock solid in the kicking game or in special teams put together. They had some key penalties and some key spots on third down as well. Is Clemson vulnerable? Yes and no. Are they going to play the kind of competition that would expose these weaknesses? Well, we didn't think it would be North Carolina, so who could it be down the road? Clemson's got a bye week next week. Then they've got Florida State coming in. The Seminoles, yes, playing a little bit better football in recent weeks, coming off a big win over North Carolina State. And then I'm eyeing that Wake Forest game on November 16th. Wake is now 5-0. They beat North Carolina more handily, certainly dominated that game for 3 quarters than Clemson did. So Wake Forest certainly could be the team that jumps up and gives Clemson another scare. I will have my top 25 that actually makes sense coming out on Monday, and certainly more previews of Week 6. We'll be starting and cranking those up on Monday as well. Right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe.